As long as I stuck to reporting, I didn't get into too much trouble too often. But when I was given a little more rope, such as had happened when I worked as a printer on various papers around the country, sometimes I almost hung myself with it. You see, in time I became chief editor of the Territorial Enterprise. I only lasted a week at that post. I edited that paper 6 days, and then I had 5 duels on my hands. I wouldn't have minded that if the other people were to challenge me. I would have simply declined with thanks. But that's not how it was. If you abused a man of the paper, if you called him names, they didn't have such laws back there as we do now. You had to challenge him and shoot him if he didn't like what you had printed about him. Well, I didn't want to do that, but the publisher said it was the custom. Society had to be protected. And if I couldn't do the duties of my position, he would have to hire somebody else. This man I was supposed to challenge to a duel got touched. It's something I wrote about him. I don't remember now exactly what it was. I may have called him a thief or a grave robber or something. He fought very shy of me at first, but that made me ply him with more challenges, more bloodthirsty challenges all the more. Finally, he began to take an interest in this thing. It seemed like he was going to take part in it at last. The boys were excited about this, but I was not. It was not a turn in things that I was expecting. I had taken for my second a fiery, peppery little fellow named Steve Davis. I'll tell more about Steve and his brother Jim later. But Steve was all fired up to get this thing taken care of right away. So he took me into a ravine outside of town to practice. It was a custom back then to fight at 5 steps with Colt's revolvers. We had borrowed a stable door for a mark from a gentleman who was absent. We set up that stable door, put a fence rail in the middle of it, and then a squash on top of it to represent his head. I had no luck at it. I could not hit the rail, and I could not hit the squash. And then when I found out I could not hit the door either, I started to get a little discouraged. But then, when I found I crippled one of the boys occasionally, I thought it was not so bad. I was dangerous with a pistol, just not reliable. About this time, we heard some shooting going on the other side of the ridge. We knew what that was. The other party was practicing. I didn't feel comfortable. If they were to come over the ridge, they might see what was going on, and when they saw no bullet hole in the barn door, that might be too much encouragement for them. Just then, a little bird, a little larger than a sparrow, lit on the sagebrush nearby. Steve whipped out his pistol and shot his head off. The boys picked it up, and we were talking about it when the other party came over the ridge. My adversary's second came up, and he said, "How far off was that?" Steve said, "About 30 steps." "Who did that?" "Why, Twain, of course." "Did he not? Can he do that often?" "He could do that about 4 times out of 5. I knew that little rascal was lying, but I didn't like to say so. I was that kind of man that didn't like to be too frank or too familiar in a matter such as that. But it was a comfort to see those other fellows' underjaws drop and turn blue about the gills and look sick. They went off, took their man home, and when I got home, I got a little note from those parties peremptorily declining the fight. How sore the boys were. How indignant they were, and so was I. But I was not distressed about it. I thought I could stand it, perhaps. But then something happened that changed my life. We received word that Nevada had just passed a law that made dueling, or even challenging someone to a duel, a penitentiary offense. Not only for the principals, but also for the seconds. That it was to be strictly enforced, and unless we got out of town in a limited number of hours, an example was to be made of us. So just as my piloting days had ended because of the outbreak of war, my Nevada days ended because of an aborted duel. Steve and I left on a stagecoach for San Francisco, outrageous and rollicking city full of bohemians.